The stars shimmered peacefully outside the deep space observation deck, offering a rare moment of tranquility in the vastness of space. Captain Alex Voss stood still, gazing out into the endless void. His mind, usually focused on the dangers of deep space missions, was momentarily at ease. He had seen many battles, but this quiet calm, was what he cherished. Little did he know that this moment of peace would soon be shattered in the most horrifying way. Without warning, a harsh blaring sound broke the silence. The lights on the deck flickered, and an urgent message appeared on the screen. The words were simple but chilling. Alien fleet detected. Incoming. Fast. Weapons engaged. His heart skipped a beat. The message was encrypted, but the situation was clear. An alien fleet was approaching Earth, and it wasn't coming for peace. The calmness that had filled the deck moments earlier vanished instantly. Alex rushed to his console, hands moving swiftly over the controls. His mind raced. An alien fleet this close to Earth was a nightmare come true. Earth had long feared this day, but no one had anticipated it would come so suddenly, or so violently. Captain Voss, we've detected multiple ships entering the system. His communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Hunter, called out urgently. They're already within range of Earth's defenses. What's their status? Alex barked. They're preparing to fire, she responded, her voice tight with stress. Our systems can't even lock onto them fast enough. Alex clenched his fists. Earth's defense systems, while advanced, were no match for this kind of assault. The enemy ships were far more technologically superior, equipped with weapons that could wipe out entire cities in seconds. Earth's military had been expecting an alien threat for years, but nothing had prepared them for this level of force. The systems had been updated, fortified, and tested, but this was something different. We need to warn the cities, Alex said. Evacuate as many as we can. Prepare for full-scale defense. As he spoke, the communication systems buzzed with the frantic voices of Earth's command center. Cities on the surface were already reporting devastating attacks. Alien ships had descended without warning, unleashing hellfire upon the ground. The defense satellites launched in response, but they were no match for the sheer power of the alien weapons. Earth's cities began to crumble under the assault. Towering skyscrapers fell like dominoes, and vast swaths of land were reduced to rubble. Alex's mind shifted back to his fleet. They had prepared for moments like this, but not for an attack this swift and overwhelming. His fleet, though formidable, was scattered across deep space assignments, far from Earth. The communication delays between Earth's surface and the military fleet meant that even the most elite soldiers were now playing catch-up. On the bridge of the flagship, the urgency in the air was palpable. Sarah Hunter's face was pale as she looked at the screen. Captain, Earth's defenses are collapsing. We're losing contact with surface bases. The alien ships are targeting key cities. Alex's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the situation. The enemy ships were sophisticated beyond belief. Their technology appeared light years ahead of Earth's own, with shields that absorbed Earth's counterattacks effortlessly. And their weapons, earth-shaking blasts, seemed to tear apart anything that came within their range. It was like watching a giant hand slowly crush a fragile insect. The odds were too high, the defeat too inevitable. But Captain Voss wasn't one to give up without a fight. Status of the cloaking devices, he asked, knowing full well that his fleet's last hope lay in the secret weapon that had been developed in silence. Sarah hesitated. They're ready, but Captain, the moment we engage the cloaks, we'll be unable to fire on them. We'll be blind. I know, Alex replied firmly. But if we don't, we'll never get close enough to even try. It's a risk we have to take. While the alien fleet continued its assault, Alex made a decision. The cloaking technology, an innovation humanity had developed in secret for years, was their only chance. The aliens knew nothing about this ability. It was humanity's hidden advantage, and if used correctly, it could shift the balance. But this would be no easy task. The technology was untested in combat, and the pressure of using it under such dire circumstances was almost unbearable. "Activate the cloaking devices," Alex commanded, his voice steady but laced with tension. The deck buzzed as Sarah keyed in the command, and one by one, the human ships in Alex's fleet disappeared into the void, cloaked by the advanced technology. The alien fleet, for the first time, lost visual contact with their attackers. They couldn't see the human ships, but the humans weren't in a much better position. They could no longer detect the alien vessels either. The fight had just become a terrifying game of hide and seek. With Earth's major cities now in flames and a huge part of their military forces scattered or destroyed, Alex knew that this was humanity's last stand. His fleet, though now hidden, was tiny compared to the vast alien armada. If they failed, Earth's survival would be in jeopardy. But Captain Voss was determined. His team, composed of the best pilots, engineers, and soldiers humanity had to offer, would not go down without a fight. As the moments ticked by, the bridge of the flagship fell silent. The tension was unbearable. Every crew member on the ship knew what was at stake. It wasn't just about winning this battle, it was about survival. If they failed here, Earth would fall, and humanity would cease to exist as anything more than a forgotten memory in the galaxy. Alex stared out into the endless void, his thoughts racing. The cloaking devices might give them an edge, but they wouldn't change the fact that the alien fleet had more advanced weapons and superior numbers. Yet in the back of his mind, a single thought persisted. Humanity had never been good at giving up, and this fight wasn't over yet. Just as the hum of the cloaking technology became deafening in the silence of space, a new signal popped up on the ship's screen. The alien fleet had begun to regroup. They were searching now, using all available means to track down the invisible human fleet. The clock was ticking. Every passing second brought them closer to either victory or annihilation. There was no middle ground. Alex stood tall, his jaw clenched. He was the captain, and if this was to be the last stand of humanity, he would make it count. The fate of Earth rested in the hands of a few brave men and women, and he would lead them to the final fight. As the first shots from the alien fleet blazed through space, Alex Voss gave the order. The cloaked ships would strike back. Humanity's hidden weapon was about to make its move. The battle raged on above Earth. Alien ships, massive and unyielding, unleashed their devastating bombardments onto the planet below. Cities crumbled into dust, and the once vibrant landscape was reduced to ashes. Every second brought more destruction, and it felt like Earth's last breath was being drawn. The alien armada, though, showed no mercy. It was as though they reveled in the chaos, watching as their weapons tore apart the very foundation of humanity. But in the midst of this nightmare, Captain Alex Voss knew that it wasn't over. Not yet. In the quiet of his ship's command center, he stared at the holographic projection of the enemy fleet. He watched the alien ships move with terrifying precision, launching strike after strike against Earth's remaining defenses. The situation was dire. Earth's forces had been blindsided, their defenses shattered, and their ability to respond had been crippled by the overwhelming power of the enemy. The only hope now was the cloaking technology, humanity's secret weapon. "Activate the cloaks," Voss ordered, his voice calm but filled with an underlying urgency. The crew members around him moved quickly, their hands flying over controls as the fleet's cloaking devices came to life. One by one, the human ships disappeared from the radar, becoming invisible in the vastness of space. The alien fleet, with its superior technology, was now on high alert, but they had no idea what was coming. They searched for any trace of humanity's remaining forces, their ships scanning the empty space around them, but the humans were now ghostly shadows. For the first time, the invincible aliens were left in the dark, blind to the very presence of the enemy. Voss' heart raced as he watched the projection. This was their moment, the only chance they had left. The cloaking devices had given them the upper hand, but it was a fragile advantage. The enemy was still far superior in terms of firepower and numbers. The odds were overwhelmingly against them. However, Voss knew one thing. If they didn't act now, Earth was lost. He turned to his crew, whose faces were filled with doubt and fear. They had just watched their world burn. They had lost families, friends, and homes. Some had even seen their own cities obliterated in the blink of an eye. The emotional toll was visible in every one of their eyes. But Voss had to rally them. If they didn't fight back now, there would be nothing left to protect. "Listen up," Voss began, his voice steady. "We've trained for moments like this. We've prepared for the impossible. The odds are stacked against us. But this," he motioned toward the holographic display of the cloaked fleet, "is our chance. We are the last line of defense. If we fail, Earth falls, and everything we know will be wiped out. But if we succeed, if we strike back hard enough, we can turn this around." The crew exchanged uncertain glances, their fear palpable. Voss could see it in their eyes. They were human, just like him. And they were scared. He understood that fear, it burned inside him too. But there was something else inside him. A fire, a drive. He wasn't going to let humanity fall without giving it everything he had. Flashbacks began to play in his mind. Memories of his wife, Emily, and his young daughter, Lily. The way they laughed together, the warmth of their home, the peaceful life they once had. And then the horror. The alien attack had come without warning. His wife and daughter had been caught in the initial strike, one of the first cities to fall. He had seen the destruction in the news, the firestorms that ravaged the streets, the footage of buildings collapsing and people screaming. But when he had tried to reach his family, there had been no answers. They were gone, lost to the alien onslaught. It was that memory that fueled his anger, that fire that burned through his veins. He wasn't just fighting for humanity anymore. He was fighting for Emily and Lily. And if there was any chance to avenge them, he would take it, no matter the cost. "Captain, we're in position." Sarah Hunter's voice broke through his thoughts. "The cloaks are fully engaged. We're ready to strike." Voss snapped back into the present, nodding. "All right, listen up. We're going to move in close to the alien flagship. It won't see us coming, but once we're within range, we'll launch a full assault. We need to disable their weapons, take down their shields, and force them into a retreat. We hit them hard, and we hit them fast." As the fleet silently moved into position, Voss could feel the weight of the moment. The tension was unbearable. Every decision from here on out would determine whether humanity had a future or whether Earth would be reduced to nothing but a scar in the galaxy. Voss had always prided himself on his ability to stay calm under pressure, but now, as the fate of the human race rested in his hands, he could feel the pressure like never before. The alien ships, unaware of the looming threat, continued their bombardment on Earth. Their weapons were relentless, sending shockwaves across the planet's surface. But Voss knew this was their advantage. The aliens were focused on Earth's cities, not on the invisible human fleet creeping up behind them. The confusion was palpable, and Voss was determined to exploit it. Every second brought them closer to their target. Through the cloaking technology, the human ships silently moved in the shadows, positioning themselves between the alien fleet and their flagship. It was a perfect ambush, and they were in the perfect spot to strike. "All ships, prepare to engage," Voss ordered, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "On my mark, we unleash everything we've got. Give them no chance to retaliate." The crew, now fully focused, moved in sync. The systems were online, the weapons fully charged, and the human fleet was prepared to do whatever it took. Voss looked around at his team. Each one of them had something to fight for. And this time, they weren't going to lose. The tension reached its peak. Voss stared out at the enemy fleet through the viewport, watching as they drifted obliviously in front of them. There was no turning back now. They had only one shot. Failure wasn't an option. "On my mark. Now." Voss barked, and the human fleet erupted from the shadows, weapons blazing in a coordinated strike. The silence of space was shattered as the first wave of blasts tore through the alien ships, catching them completely off guard. Explosions rippled across their fleet, and the alien ships began to scatter in confusion. The once confident armada was thrown into chaos as the humans, with their advanced cloaking technology and relentless will, turned the tide of battle. But Voss knew this was just the beginning. The alien fleet might be stunned, but they were far from defeated. The real battle had just begun, and humanity's survival rested on every decision made from here on out. The moment the order was given, the human fleet erupted from the shadows, launching their first strike against the alien armada. The massive alien ships, still reeling from the earlier confusion, were completely unprepared for the sudden onslaught. Human ships, now visible for the first time, fired with precision, aiming for the weak points in the alien vessels' shields and weapon systems. The air was filled with the roar of laser blasts and the explosions that followed as the human fleet cut through the alien ranks. Behind the front lines of the human ships, hundreds of AI-controlled drones whizzed through space, darting between the towering alien warships like swarming bees. These advanced drones were quick, nearly impossible to track, and their mission was simple: disrupt, disable, and destroy. Their small size and speed made them perfect for striking at weak points and retreating before the aliens could retaliate. The combination of cloaked ships and drones overwhelmed the aliens' defenses, causing panic and confusion to spread like wildfire. It was chaos in the alien ranks. The aliens who had thought they were untouchable now found themselves fighting blind, firing into the empty void, trying to catch the humans who were no longer where they had been just moments before. The human ships, cloaked once more after the initial attack, melted back into the shadows, making it nearly impossible for the alien fleet to find them. This hit-and-run style of battle seemed to be working, at least for the moment. But the aliens were quick to adapt. Within moments of the first strike, they had begun to counterattack. New, advanced alien fighters were deployed, scanning for any signs of the human fleet. It didn't take long before they detected some traces of the human ships and locked onto their coordinates. The aliens adapted their tactics, sending smaller, faster ships to chase down the humans, using their superior technology to try to force the humans into a corner. It was a deadly game of cat and mouse, and the aliens were getting better at the chase. As Voss and his crew watched the battle unfold, the reality of the situation began to sink in. While the humans had gained the upper hand for a brief moment, the alien counterattacks were swift and brutal. For every alien ship that fell, two more seemed to take its place. The alien fighters were fast, their weapons far more advanced than anything the humans had at their disposal. The human fleet had only a short window of opportunity before they were overwhelmed. But even as the stakes grew higher, the humans continued to press on. Voss knew that this was their only chance to turn the tide of the war. The battle wasn't just about surviving. It was about fighting back with everything they had. Voss' gaze shifted to Lieutenant Sarah Hunter, one of his most trusted officers. She was at the helm of one of the lead ships, a seasoned fighter and a calming presence amidst the chaos. Her skills and bravery had been invaluable in the earlier skirmishes, and Voss knew that she would give everything she had to ensure their victory. But as the battle raged on, Voss noticed something. One of the alien fighters had broken through their defenses and was targeting Hunter's ship. "Sarah, you need to pull back," Voss barked into the comm, but his voice was drowned out by the noise of battle. He watched helplessly as the alien ship locked onto Hunter's vessel and fired a devastating volley. Hunter's ship shuddered under the impact, sparks flying from its hull as it lost power. She was no longer responding to comms. Voss' heart sank. The worst-case scenario had unfolded right before his eyes. His friend, his ally, was gone. A knot tightened in his chest. He had always known that war came with losses, but it was different when it was someone you had fought beside, someone you had trusted with your life. He had failed to protect Sarah, and that guilt hit him like a ton of bricks. He had given the order to strike, but he had failed to give the order to save her. The thought gnawed at him, making the fire of anger inside him burn even hotter. He couldn't let Sarah's death be in vain. He would make the aliens pay for what they had done. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the roar of battle. "You didn't die for nothing. I swear I'll make them pay." Voss pushed his grief aside, focusing on the mission at hand. He could mourn later, but right now, he had to fight for his crew, for his people, for the memory of Sarah and everyone they had lost. With the alien fleet now retaliating with full force, Voss gave the order to re-engage the cloaking devices and fall back into the shadows. It wasn't a retreat, not yet, but a regrouping. They needed to reassess, plan, and strike again. They had to move quickly. The longer the battle dragged on, the more the humans were losing. But Voss was determined. He could feel Sarah's spirit in the back of his mind, urging him to keep going. If they were going to survive this, they needed to find a way to hit the aliens where it hurt the most. "Prepare for another strike," Voss ordered, his voice steady despite the emotions raging inside him. "We'll take out their main command ship. That's where they're pulling all their resources from. If we cripple their command, the rest of their forces will fall apart." The crew nodded silently, understanding the gravity of Voss' words. They had lost one of their own, but they couldn't afford to stop now. Sarah's sacrifice had given them a glimpse of victory, and Voss would not let that sacrifice go to waste. As the human fleet repositioned, Voss couldn't help but think back on all the times he had led his team. He had always been the calm, collected one, the one who made the tough calls. But now, as the weight of Sarah's death hung over him, he felt something different, a burning rage that pushed him forward, that demanded he fight harder, smarter. He couldn't let the aliens take everything. Not now. Not after everything they had already taken from him. His mind raced with tactics, strategies, and battle plans. They would need to be faster, smarter, and more efficient. The cloaking technology had been a game changer, but it would only work if they kept the element of surprise. The aliens would learn, and when they did, the humans would need to be ready. "Move out," Voss commanded, his voice cold with determination. "Let's finish this." With that, the human fleet slipped back into the shadows, preparing for their next strike. As the battle raged on, Voss knew one thing for certain. The war was far from over. But he also knew that he would not stop until every alien that had caused this destruction was brought to justice. And in his heart, he swore to himself that Sarah's death would not be in vain. The fight was just beginning. The battle had reached a crucial point. Despite their best efforts, the humans were starting to lose ground. The alien fleet, with its superior technology and weapons, had managed to outsmart the humans at every turn. Their advanced AI systems had adapted to the human tactics, and the cloaking devices that had once given the humans an advantage were now useless. The alien forces had started to scan the vastness of space, seeking any signs of the human fleet hiding in the shadows. It seemed like there was no way to win. Captain Alex Voss paced back and forth, his mind racing for a solution. The human fleet was growing smaller with every passing minute. His crew was exhausted, and the once mighty ships were now riddled with damage. The aliens were relentless, pushing humanity to the brink of extinction. Yet, in the midst of this chaos, a glimmer of hope appeared. In the deepest parts of Earth's underground military base, there had been a secret weapon kept hidden from the alien invaders. A weapon capable of turning the tide of the war, but it was buried deep beneath a heavily fortified alien outpost on a distant moon in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. It was a desperate plan, but it was all they had left. If they could activate the weapon, it would disable the aliens' communication systems, leaving their fleet in disarray. Without the ability to coordinate, the alien ships would turn on each other, creating chaos in their ranks. Voss knew this was their last shot. He called a meeting with his top officers, including Lieutenant Sarah Hunter's replacement, Lieutenant Jack Marlowe, and their best special operations team. The mission was clear: infiltrate the alien outpost, plant the device, and return before the aliens could react. The risks were enormous, but it was the only chance they had left. Voss stood before his team, his face hard and determined. This is a one-way mission. Once you're in, there's no turning back. The fate of humanity rests on your shoulders. You can't afford to fail. His voice was unwavering, but inside, he was filled with doubt. The stakes were higher than ever, and losing another team would break the morale of the entire human fleet. The mission was suicide, but it was the only way to stop the alien onslaught. The weapon had to be activated, and the only way to do that was through the heart of the alien-controlled moon. The team was briefed on the plan. They would travel in a stealth shuttle, using the remains of a destroyed alien ship to mask their approach. Once they landed, they would have to fight their way through a heavily defended outpost, using whatever weapons and technology they could get their hands on. The weapon was hidden deep inside the base, and the further they went, the more dangerous it would become. As the mission began, the human soldiers felt a sense of unease. They knew the odds were stacked against them. They could hear the distant rumble of space battles above them, but they focused on their mission. It was a do-or-die situation, and they couldn't afford to waste any time. The shuttle sped through space, cloaked by the wreckage of an alien ship. They passed undetected, skimming the edges of the alien fleet, and finally, they'd reached the surface of the moon. The barren landscape was quiet, almost too quiet. They had to move fast, as the longer they took, the higher the risk of being detected. The moment they stepped onto the moon's surface, they were met with resistance. Alien drones, armed with advanced weaponry, were stationed at the outpost's perimeter, and as soon as they saw the human team, the battle began. The soldiers exchanged fire with the drones, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Explosions rocked the ground, and the team was forced to take cover as they fought their way toward the facility. The moon's surface trembled under the weight of the battle above. The alien fleet continued to engage the human ships, but the focus of the team below was solely on the mission. They had to reach the weapon, or all of this would have been for nothing. Close quarters combat erupted as they neared the entrance of the outpost. Alien soldiers, wearing advanced armor, charged toward them. The humans fought back with all they had, using their rifles and grenades to create openings. The sound of weapons clashing echoed through the outpost, and the tension in the air was suffocating. It was clear that the soldiers were running out of time, and every step closer to the weapon seemed to bring more danger. Voss and his team pressed forward, determined to succeed. The heat of battle and the fear of death pressed down on them like a physical weight. They fought not only for their own survival, but for the survival of their entire species. Each alien they took down only brought them closer to their goal, but each step forward also meant more of their own comrades fell. One by one, the soldiers began to fall. Lieutenant Marlowe, one of Voss' most trusted officers, was shot in the leg while covering the team's advance. The rest of the soldiers kept moving, knowing they couldn't afford to waste time helping him. The pain of losing comrades was unbearable, but they kept going. They couldn't stop now. As they neared the weapon's activation point, the tension reached a breaking point. The facility was heavily guarded, and the closer they got, the more intense the resistance became. But they finally made it to the room that housed the weapon, a large metallic device that hummed with energy. The soldiers began to plant the device, knowing that one wrong move could mean the end of everything. But as they worked, an alien ambush was triggered. The facility's alarms blared, and alien forces poured into the room from all directions. The team was surrounded. Gunfire erupted from all sides as Voss and his remaining soldiers fought for their lives. The chaos of battle intensified as more and more alien soldiers stormed the facility. The humans had no choice but to fight with everything they had left. Explosions rocked the facility as grenades were thrown, and blaster fire lit up the dark room. It was clear that the team was outnumbered, and their chances of survival were growing slimmer by the second. But despite the overwhelming odds, the mission wasn't over. In the middle of the chaos, One of the soldiers, a young recruit named Jenkins, managed to activate the weapon. The hum of the device turned into a loud, ear-piercing screech as it powered up. The alien forces paused, disoriented. The weapon was working. The communication system that linked the alien fleet was now offline. Their ships, once moving with perfect coordination, began to fire blindly into the chaos. They lost their ability to coordinate their strikes, and the once overwhelming alien fleet descended into total disarray. It was a moment of pure chaos. The aliens no longer knew where their enemies were. They fired at random, hitting their own ships, causing explosions to ripple through the ranks. Voss and his remaining soldiers made their escape, knowing that they had accomplished the impossible. They had turned the tide, but at a great cost. As the team made their way back to the shuttle, the sounds of battle continued to rage above them. The alien fleet was no longer the well-organized force they had once been. They had been thrown into confusion, and the humans now had a chance to strike back. But even as Voss boarded the shuttle and took one last look at the moon's surface, he knew that the cost of their success was high. Many had fallen, but their sacrifice would not be forgotten. The war was far from over, but this victory, hard-earned as it was the first step toward reclaiming their home. The mission had been a success, but it was only the beginning. The real battle was about to start, and humanity was ready to face it head-on. The tides of war had shifted. With the alien fleet thrown into disarray, humanity found itself with a rare and precious opportunity. The powerful weapon, activated at great cost, had crippled the aliens' communication systems, leaving their fleet vulnerable. The once unassailable armada now lacked coordination, and chaos reigned in their ranks. This was humanity's chance to end the invasion once and for all. Captain Alex Voss, standing on the bridge of Earth's flagship, felt the weight of leadership pressing down on him. His hands gripped the armrests of his command chair, his eyes scanning the battlefield ahead. This moment was his people's last stand. The alien mothership, the heart of the invasion, loomed ahead in the void of space. It was massive, an ominous behemoth, and for all the destruction it had caused, Voss knew this was where the final battle would be fought. The human fleet, though battered and bruised, was ready. The crew had fought tirelessly, and now they would fight for survival, for Earth, and for those they had lost. The overwhelming sense of urgency was palpable. Voss had no illusions. This would be a bloody fight, but it was one he had to lead. The command to launch the full-scale assault came through. Fighters swarmed out of Earth's ships like a cloud of hornets, diving into the alien mothership's defenses. Voss, leading a squadron of human pilots, pushed his fighter through the chaos of space, flying straight toward the enemy's heart. The black void of space was lit up with the glare of explosions, energy beams, and the deep, thunderous sounds of space warfare. As the battle raged on, Voss's mind raced. The human fighters were outnumbered, but they had the advantage of being able to adapt quickly. They had learned the alien tactics and found weaknesses, and now they fought with the desperation of those who had nothing left to lose. Every pilot pushed their ship to the limit, weaving through enemy fire and striking with precision. The air was thick with tension as fighter after fighter launched missiles, lasers, and bombs at the alien ships, creating a deadly dance in the cold expanse of space. Amid the chaos, Voss's squadron was the tip of the spear. He could see the alien mothership growing larger on his radar, and his heart raced with a mixture of excitement and fear. This was it. This was the moment that would determine humanity's future. If they could destroy the mothership, the entire alien fleet would fall apart, and Earth could finally breathe again. But as Voss drew closer to the mothership, a wave of dread washed over him. The alien flagship's defenses were formidable, and as his squadron advanced, they were met with a barrage of heavy fire. His fighter rocked violently as enemy blasts tore through space, narrowly missing him. He gritted his teeth and focused, guiding his fighter through the enemy's fire. The air was thick with the stench of burning metal as explosions erupted all around him. The stakes had never been higher. Meanwhile, on the ground, the human soldiers aboard the remaining ships were coordinating with ground forces on the alien mothership's surface. The mission was clear: destroy the heart of the invasion. But getting there was far from simple. The ship's defenses were brutal, and the alien forces on board were fighting tooth and nail to protect their commander. Voss's fighter broke through the aliens' defense perimeter, making its way into the heart of the mothership. Inside, the massive central chamber loomed ahead, with its walls lined with alien technology. The battlefield was now set for Voss's final confrontation, the showdown with the alien commander. Voss had been waiting for this moment since the very first attack on Earth. The alien commander, ruthless and cold, had orchestrated the invasion that killed so many of Voss's comrades, including his own family. This fight was personal. The alien commander's ship appeared in front of Voss, hovering like a shadow against the backdrop of the mothership. The commander's face was cold, an expressionless mask behind a helmet, but Voss could feel the seething hatred behind those eyes. This was the moment where the fate of Earth and humanity would be decided, and it would not come easily. The two ships circled each other in space, exchanging fire in a deadly ballet. The alien commander's vessel was heavily armed, but Voss knew that he had to take it down before reaching the heart of the mothership. The battle that ensued was brutal, each maneuver more dangerous than the last. Voss's hands shook as he gripped the controls, firing his weapons with deadly accuracy. The sounds of explosions, laser beams, and the deep hum of his engines filled his cockpit, making it feel like time itself was stretched thin. But no matter how hard he fought, the alien commander's ship was relentless. Every blast that hit his ship sent a jolt of pain through his body, but Voss pushed through the pain. He could see the commander's ship ahead of him, seemingly unscathed by the barrage of fire Voss had unleashed. His mind raced, trying to figure out how to break through. Finally, Voss saw it, the weak spot in the enemy ship. The power core, exposed and vulnerable, was located just below the central bridge. With no time to waste, Voss dove straight at the enemy ship, firing everything he had. In a moment of sheer desperation, his fighter slammed into the alien ship's defenses, and a massive explosion erupted. For a brief moment, everything went silent. Then the shockwave hit, sending both ships into a spiraling freefall toward the mothership. But before Voss could regain control, the unexpected happened. The alien fleet, once unified, began to retreat. The shockwave from Voss's battle had triggered a chain reaction within the mothership. The alien commander, facing his own impending doom, ordered a retreat. The alien ships, now lost without the ability to communicate or coordinate, began firing at each other in a blind panic, adding to the chaos and confusion. Voss regained control of his fighter just in time to witness the alien mothership, once so powerful, begin to disintegrate. Its core, overloaded from the shock of battle, exploded in a blinding burst of energy. The shockwaves from the explosion rippled outward, scattering the alien fleet into pieces. The human fighters had done it. The invaders were defeated. The human fleet watched in awe as the alien ships scattered, fleeing in every direction. For the first time in weeks, there was silence in space. The destruction of the alien mothership had marked the end of the invasion. The remaining alien ships, disoriented and broken, had no choice but to retreat into the dark void of space. Earth had won. Voss, still shaken from the battle, allowed himself a moment of relief. His body ached from the strain, and his mind raced with the memories of those who had fallen in this fight. But despite the cost, humanity had triumphed. The war was over. The final victory was not just about defeating the aliens. It was about the strength, resilience, and unity of humanity. They had fought against impossible odds, and in the end, they had emerged victorious. As the surviving human ships returned to Earth, they were greeted with cheers and tears, knowing that their home was safe once again. The alien invasion had been repelled. Earth had stood firm, and humanity's last stand had become their greatest victory. The dust had settled, but the scars of war remained. The alien invasion had ended in victory for humanity, but it was a hollow triumph. Earth's cities lay in ruins, shattered by the relentless bombardment of the alien fleet. Skyscrapers that once touched the sky were now crumpled heaps of metal and concrete. The streets, once filled with the vibrant pulse of life, were eerily quiet. The cries of survivors echoed through the empty spaces as they searched for the lost, the injured, and the broken. Captain Alex Voss stood amidst the wreckage, his eyes scanning the landscape. His heart felt heavy, burdened by the weight of all that had been lost. The victory over the alien invaders had come at an unimaginable cost. He had lost friends, comrades, and family, the faces of those who had fallen in battle, like Sarah Hunter, his closest ally, haunted him. Each name was a reminder of the price of this war. But in the midst of the destruction, there was a glimmer of hope. The battle was over, but humanity had not been crushed. They had endured. As Voss walked through the ruins of what was once a thriving metropolis, he couldn't help but think about the future. The war was over, but the questions lingered. What now? What had humanity truly accomplished, and what did the future hold? The alien fleet had been defeated, their mothership destroyed, but Voss couldn't shake the feeling that Earth had only scratched the surface of a much larger conflict. The galaxy was vast, and it was filled with dangers that humans had never even imagined. The victory was bittersweet. Voss had led his people to triumph, but it had come at a price. Thousands of lives had been lost in the battle, and the toll on the human psyche was immense. The survivors, though grateful to be alive, had seen their world torn apart. Families had been ripped apart, and countless homes had been destroyed. The people of Earth now had to rebuild, not just their cities, but their hope. Voss paused, standing in front of a monument made from the wreckage of an alien ship. It had been stripped of its deadly weapons, its technologies analyzed and stored for future use. But Voss couldn't bring himself to look at it as a symbol of victory. To him, it was a reminder of the destruction they had all endured. He could still hear the screams of those who had fallen, the echo of the final battle reverberating in his mind. In the quiet aftermath, Voss reflected on the sacrifices that had been made. Lieutenant Sarah Hunter had been one of the first to volunteer for the most dangerous missions. She had fought by his side until the very end, and her loss was felt deeply by all who knew her. Her death had shaken him to his core. It had been his responsibility to lead, to keep them all safe, but in the end, they had all paid the price. The pain of losing her, of losing so many, was a burden he would carry forever. But he knew that her sacrifice, along with the sacrifices of countless others, had given humanity a fighting chance. Without them, Earth might have been lost. Voss closed his eyes and took a deep breath, letting the wind wash over him. It was a new day, a day that would be defined by rebuilding. Humanity would rise again, stronger and more united than ever. But Voss knew it wouldn't be easy. The scars of war would take time to heal, and the road ahead would be long. There would be grief, pain, and loss along the way. But there would also be hope. As Earth's survivors gathered together to begin the long process of rebuilding, Voss couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Despite the destruction, despite the heartache, humanity had shown resilience. They had faced the impossible and had emerged victorious. They had fought against an alien invasion and had driven it back. They had proven that they were capable of greatness, of overcoming the darkest challenges. The rebuilding effort began immediately. Teams of engineers, scientists, and military leaders worked tirelessly to restore Earth's cities, and survivors worked alongside them, cleaning up the wreckage and laying the foundations for the future. People from all walks of life came together, united by the shared experience of war. It was a time of reconstruction, of rebuilding not just the physical world, but the human spirit. The strength that humanity had shown in the face of annihilation became the foundation for the new world they would build together. But in the midst of the rebuilding, Voss knew that they couldn't rest on their laurels. The galaxy was vast, and there were far greater dangers lurking out there than the ones they had just faced. The alien fleet they had defeated might have been only one small faction in a much larger, darker universe. What other threats lay hidden in the far corners of space? Voss couldn't shake the feeling that the war was far from over. Perhaps it had only just begun. He stood on the balcony of a high-rise building, staring at the stars above. The night sky, once a symbol of hope, now felt ominous. The quiet hum of Earth's rebuilding efforts could still be heard in the distance, but Voss knew that peace would not come easily. The battle for humanity's survival had been won, but the galaxy was a dangerous place, full of unknowns. What would be the next threat, and when would it arrive? As Voss stared at the stars, he sensed that Earth's victory over the alien invaders had stirred something deeper within the galaxy. He couldn't explain it, but something felt different. Perhaps it was the ripple effect of their triumph, or perhaps it was the attention they had drawn from the countless alien civilizations watching from afar. One thing was certain: humanity had made its mark on the galaxy, and it would never be the same. The victory had been hard-earned, but it was only the beginning. Voss knew that Earth would face new challenges, new enemies, and new questions in the days to come. But for the first time, humanity stood united, ready to face whatever came next. Earth had been knocked down, but it had risen again, stronger than ever. Now it was time to look to the future and prove that humanity was a force to be reckoned with, not just on Earth, but across the stars. The war against the aliens might be over, but the war for humanity's place in the universe was just beginning. And Captain Voss, standing in the quiet aftermath, knew that he would be ready to lead humanity into whatever came next. The battle for Earth was over, but the battle for the galaxy had only just begun.